Hey everyone, it's me, the Lucky Fate Reviewer here, and we are nearing the end of these. It's been a long time coming, but we're pretty much at the final two I'm going to do, mostly because some of the other characters I could do, we either barely have anything to talk about, or I don't entirely know about the characters due to the fact they're from CCC, and that game never got an official translation. Though a fan one is going on, so if that ever gets finished, well, I mean, it's during getting finished. So if that ends up getting done, then I may end up doing going in. Well, if it gets, if it does end up going through, and I play it, I may come back to this series and do a bit of a CCC series regarding some characters, some more minor characters of the Fate Extraverse series. Mostly just because I like the mostly like the masters of the extra series. I genuinely think they're the best rounded cast. And Leo here is no exception. But to save the main course, let's talk about Gawain first, because he's a lot simpler to talk about, because he spends the majority of extra not really doing much. It's kind of like a Lu Bu and Gawain situation. Not Gawain, Cuchulainn situation from last video where you don't really get, well, you get more interaction with Gawain whenever Leo is around. I mean, Leo himself pretty much starts off the bat by introducing him as Gawain. Doesn't even try to hide his name or anything, he's just Gawain. And he doesn't, I mean, there's a few times he talks to Hawkino, but beyond that, it's not really till the 7th round where anything really happens, and it mostly just comes down to trying to find a way to play around his numeral saint skill and him just being doggedly loyal to Leo. Mostly due to him feeling like he has his own, issues with how he failed Artorian Live, and this is pretty much his second chance to be a perfect knight. But yeah, it's kind of like it's the last three servants we don't really get much into about them, mostly due to the fact that like they had more opportunity for these three, but it's just they don't really do much. And then of course you have Extella, the Extella games, where in Extella itself, Gawain basically is the powerhouse for Nero's side, mostly due to the whole numeral saint skill. But there's not really much to him in those routes, and his side story basically revolves around him base basically just doing stuff for Nero, and then and encountering Artoria, and just them having a talk, and that's kind of it. A bit disappointing, all things considered. And Link kind of also didn't do much with him, unfortunately. So, yeah. I mean, if you know about Grain, you probably know more about him from Vigo, because Vigo has done a lot with him. Especially during Camelot. Yeah. Which, funny thing about that, most people consider what he did there sort of set up its CCC as, I don't know about the other servants, but I do know there about the version he has, the conversation he has with Gilgamesh, and it pretty much revolves around Gilgamesh talking about him basically not being satisfied with the way he lived. And a lot of stuff that was said there kind of was sort of, I guess you could say it was set up for Camelot, I don't know. I want to say it was possible setup, because it was only 3 years difference. C60 came out in 2013, and Camelot came out in 2016 for JP, so I would like to imagine that's set up. Not sure about that. Point is, Grain doesn't really have a lot in extra. He's in the extra series. He's there. He's really powerful, but he really doesn't do much. And basically, his relationship with Leo can be summarized as basically similar to his relationship with Artura, in that he basically faithfully serves and does whatever they want. No questions asked. And this, of course, leads. This is a good segue into Leo, who best way to summarize him is basically the second coming of Artoria, or Arthur, whichever version you've heard. Basically, he's basically would imagine if someone tried to recreate Artoria and the whole thing with that, and you pretty much got him. Pretty much born to his mother. Well, I think a lot of it I talked about in Julius's refresher. His mom was Julius's stepmom, and basically when Leo was born, to ensure his heritage, Julius had to kill his mom, but Leo really doesn't have much of feelings on that, mostly because he was pretty much young, and yeah, let's just say, though he is the rightful heir to the whole Harwey family, he did not get any better treatment than Julius did. First off, starting off with the fact that they literally burned information into his brain when he was young. I am not joking you. This is apparently a thing. They literally burned information into his brain when he was young, and it's just like, okay, Harweys, they are definitely not great. I mean, but it was bad enough for what happened with Julius, but this was even worse. This is not as great. This is, well, not as worse, but it's not good either, because he was pretty much raised with the whole belief that he was perfect, that he was basically a king, and that kings like him come from heaven to basically rule the plebeian humans. And he was pretty much grown up under this belief, and to be fair, it's not exactly wrong. Allow me to put it like this. Even if I'm pretty sure I said this in the last video with Ren and Ronnie, but I'll say it again. Even if Ren and Ronnie had teamed up, they have somehow made a way so that they were allowed to team up and face Leo together, Leo still had a better chance at winning than the two of them combined. I think it's touted as there is some things that Ren and Ronnie are better at than he is. Oh, let me check real quick. Okay, so basically, Ren is superior in terms of using offensive code cast, and Ronnie is better in pure computational ability. But beyond that, he's basically superior to both of them in everything else, and it's pretty much because of that he would end up, having a better chance at winning against both of them combined. So it then just comes back to the question: then how is it that Hawkeye was able to beat him? And this pretty much reflects into the core theme. Leo represents stagnation. He is based his entire character is that he's basically this perfect king that and he's not like like a toy had where he doesn't have emotion. It's just that he just doesn't deal with that, I guess, in like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. Well, verbatim what he said, but basically he has emotions where he's not an inhumane king like Artoria and Arthur was. He does have emotions, but he's basically the idea, like the perfect king, in that he doesn't think that like anyone else can beat him. In short, he's basically a stud. He's basically the strongest. There's no one else that can challenge him. No one else that that pose a threat to force him to get stronger. And that's entirely what Hakano is. It's pretty much stated in the materials of Extra that if if Hakuno is progress, is representative of progress, Leo is stagnation. He is the embodiment of a stagnating world, and it kind of makes sense given his whole wish is that he basically wants to, bring peace to the entire world. And the entire reason he's even here is because if anyone else came, it was believed that they'll get it wrong, and that's why he's here to secure the Grail. Secure the immune cell for the hallways, and basically use it to bring peace and equality to the entire world. And I believe it is expanded upon in last Encore had his wish, had he succeeded, it's predicted that the world would have had 500 women able to go on for 500 more years before eventually stuffing out. Effectively, his wish would have granted humanity a slow but peaceful death, I guess you could say, in that humanity will eventually die off, but it would be a slow and sort of peaceful slumber rather than cracking imminent demise. And that's ultimately what leads to his defeat. Basically, he believes that he won't lose no matter what. And this results in Hakuno, with the help of Ren and Ronnie, managing to disable Gawain's numeral saint skill. But the skill that basically makes him invulnerable. The skill that even Lancelot in life had to, wait to nightfall in order to give Gawain the wound that would eventually kill him when he went to fight Mordred in Camelot at the Battle of Camelot. But Leo still believed Gawain would win no matter what, and ultimately he doesn't. And it's pretty much during the end, him finally, knowing what defeat is, having spent his whole life being touted as perfect and never having lost anything, that, he starts finally, realizing fear and, he pretty much becomes a good king. It's unfortunately just pretty much at the end of it, he would have become a good king. And this kind of leads to one of the final cut endings of Extra, whereas he's the person you could have saved. In the cutting room floor, there was apparently dialogue and an option to be able to save Leo, similar to how you would save Ren, Ronnie, or Julius. And I imagine the ending would result in, Leo having now known defeat, now knowing that he is not perfect, and, gaining that sense of humanity he desperately needed to become a truly good king. Because he's not a bad king. It's just that he's been raised by the Harweys in this specific way to the point where he truly believes he is basically perfect. But thanks to Hakuno, he kind of now knows that isn't the case. And there is no really clear sign of what would have happened with this ending, but I would have imagined that it's similar to Ren and Ronnie's ending, where after returning to Earth, Leo would have gotten the message from Hakuno about their real body, and Leo owing, Hakuno a debt, NPC Hakuno a debt for saving him, and, teaching him what he needed to learn in order to be a true good king for humanity, would have gone out to, find Hakuno's body and use the Harwey's resources in order to cure Hakuno. And maybe this is me, but I kind of ship him and female Hakuno. I think there's something there. I don't know, again, it's kind of hard because, again, he only is, more human and more, down to earth in CCC, and that game never came out to the West. So it's that, annoying thing of, I want to know what happened in CCC, but I unfortunately don't. And the only option I have is basically watching a several-hour video playlist of videos that go translated several hour playlist of the guild translated video, the one translated route we have, thanks to a guy on YouTube. And it's like I can do that, but it's just I would rather just play the game myself than watch videos. So there's that. And now with all that out of the way, there is a bit one little more detail last encore. And last encore pretty much gave what I consider is the best Leo design we have. And that is Adult Leo. So apparently there was an original sketch Wada did of 20-year-old Leo because his avatar is 14-year-old self. Don't ask me why he decided that to be his avatar. I guess it's to apparently it was supposed to be a gender it was apparently some joke. I remember reading at some point it was apparently some joke, but I can't remember what the specifics of the joke is. I guess Gentleman Artoya something? I don't know. Point is, it was a joke. That's why we have the 14-year-old design. But Wada had drew a 20-year-old design, and I like the design. I love this design so much better. And I wish they used this more. Because it looks so good. Hold on. There's a Seeing Virgo that has adult Leo, 20-year-old Leo. I'll give it so quick. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't pull it up. But basically, if you look online, you can easily find it. It's basically him, but older, and it's like, why wasn't this his design? I like this more than the 14-year-old. Give me this. Give me 20-year-old Leo, not 14-year-old. Though I was, when I was basically getting ready to make this video, I did kind of realize the irony here, in that Leo, who is older, has his avatar looking younger, whereas Shinji, who is, a kid, has an older avatar. So there was a bit of irony there that I just found funny. But yeah, that's kind of it. I could go into the last encore, but it pretty much boils down to Leo got defeated by Hakuno, was about to be deleted. Twice saved him, and Leo ended up accepting Trice's ideology. He sat at the top, the seventh stratum, for a while until he realized no one was coming, and thus he will be unable to move forward. So he pretty much put himself into cryo sleep of sorts, and Gawain pretty much stood over and watched for 1,000 years until Deadface Hakuno and the crew got up there and had their whole fight, and then, of course, Leo ended up, coming back to seeing, Hakuno's side of things, and ends up helping stop Deadface twice during the finale, and it's like, that's nice. That's nice. And yeah, that's basically it. This is a character I wish we got a Pseudo 7 of, because it's like, there's so much fun you can have here. Like, I want all of the Fate Extra Masters as Sewer Servants because I just feel like they're a fun cast and you can do a lot of stuff with them. But if there's any particular people I would love to see, Leo is definitely amongst them because there's just so much stuff you can do. And it sucks we basically the extent we have of him, acting basically human and whatnot is in CCC and the Foxtail manga and the mangas for CCC and as well as Foxtail, and it's just like I wish we got more. I want more, and I'm saddened that we don't get more. So really crossing my fingers that in future Extella games or something, they get brought back. Like Leo and all the other masters, I want them all back, and I want to be able to spend more time with them because I feel like they have so much more you can do with, and there's just so much like stuff and so much fun ideas and gags and whatnot that you could do with them. But yeah, that was Leo, the final master Hakuno faced in the Grail War proper. Now there's only one final person left, and oh boy, do I have a lot to talk about him. Like, the reason I got the motivation to do this video was specifically so I can get this done. Not that I didn't want to do this video, I do. But I specifically wanted to get this done before I do the next video because let's just say I had a sort of theory slash idea that may make Hakuno's whole self-actualization make a lot more sense. But I'll save that in the next video. Thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys for next video, which is going to be the last in the series. So yeah, we'll see you then.